Welcome to the Raisingboystomen podcast. And today I have with me a special guest and someone that I can now call a friend. Some of you may know him from, to me, being in one of the greatest R&B boy bands the UK has ever released.
Nice.
And some of you may know him for his other work, which we're going to dive into today. But please welcome to the podcast, Andrez Harriott.
Bless you.
My bro.
What a nice way to start.
Honestly, I'm so appreciative of not just you being here, but knowing you.
Yeah.
And I feel like this conversation, the fan in me is going to come out.
Yeah.
Because
Whenever we talk, it always does.
Yeah.
We'll be on the phone, you'll be like, oh, sorry, bro. Yeah.
the fan in me will come out. But
Yeah.
it's also, the timing of this episode is important because what we're going to dive into is, I guess, the transition of boys going back to school and the effects that can have on them and so much more.
Yes.
But I want to get my fan question out of the way.
Okay, let's do
Right?
it.
So, to me, one of the things I loved about Damage the most, was the dance break in Ghetto Romance.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
I want to know who choreographed that,
Right.
and how long did it take you lot to learn?
Okay, so the choreographer is a phenomenal choreographer called Tonya Peterson. And Tonya lives out in Denmark. And we met Tonya through a guy who became D'Angelo's manager. Bless his soul, he's no longer here. But he was working with our management at the time. We flew to New York to film Get a Romance in the video, and we needed something special. And somebody brought Tonya in to work with us. She had about a day, and she put together the whole Get a Romance routine, the dance break and everything. And then after that, maybe a year later, we contacted her. She came back to the UK and she was our choreographer throughout the whole Get a Romance period, really. And she's a very, very special woman. She's gone on to do huge things, kind of like the BGTs and the X Factors in Denmark. She's a huge, huge choreographer.
That's like, to me, that dance break is just infamous.
Yeah, well, so it took a while to learn. You asked how long did it take?
Yeah.
It took a minute, and I'm one of those guys that I take a little bit longer than others in the band.
Oh, serious?
Yeah. But once I've got it locked,
It's there.
I can execute.
Yeah.
But I just take a little bit longer. But it was so intricate. So when you see it now, and people see it and they're like, they're just killing it. Believe me, it's really intricate moves that you just have to get right in that.
Because if you miss the beat,
It's
everything's on the beat, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's become a signature, and 20 plus years later, it still feels as fresh as when we
you're
dropped
still
it
hitting it.
in the early 2000s. Yeah.
Just one more question: who's the quickest to pick it up?
Who's the quickest to pick up
And
dance
I'm hoping they're
routines?
all watching, just in case.
Do you know what? I think I'm probably going to say Jade and Russ, I think, would probably pick it up quickest.
Okay,
Then Noel, and then myself.
putting yourself last.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just take a little bit more time. But what I know is once I've got it,
Yeah.
and then I put my ting on it, then
Yeah.
it's locked.
I love that.
Then it's
I
locked.
love that. No, because I've always watched it, and I've tried to.
You try to mirror it, and you got some bits. I think we should just we should almost do like a Get a Romance dance party where everyone could just come and learn the routine.
You know
fully.
what it is like to
Yeah.
me? It's like the house party dance.
Yeah. Kid and play, absolutely.
It's that kind of
Yeah.
where everyone can just you can do it if
Yeah.
you know it.
Yes,
It's not something that is like, oh my gosh, that's too. There's a backflip there. And I can't.
Yeah.
So
People have got bits. So people have got those bits.
Yeah.
Somebody's got like the head bit, the arm bit.
yeah. And the thing is,
Yeah.
back in the day,
Yeah.
there wasn't like YouTube or DVD, so
No.
it was like pause on the VHS,
Absolutely, yeah.
rewind,
Yeah.
trying to see the angles because
Yeah.
sometimes you couldn't see all the angles.
Yeah.
So that was me.
You're committed. Well, we're going to see you on the 5th of December.
Yes.
Shepherd's Bush Empire, where we're headlining, which is going to be
massive.
amazing. So I'm looking forward to
Because last year's
welcoming
was big.
you. Yeah, we did the O2 Islington.
Yeah.
And then we've kind of stepped up now to 2,000 capacity.
And you're gonna step up again after this.
Amen.
You have to.
receive
You
that.
have to.
Yeah, man.
Right. So
Yes.
obviously that's your, I guess, musical side.
Yeah.
There's another side of work that you do.
Yeah.
And I want you to kind of explain that. And the reason why is because we was on a podcast with Vernie.
We were,
And I think it was the Small Talk Big Chat or
That's
something like that podcast,
Yes,
right?
yeah, good memory.
And they asked us to introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
So I gave a bit of a breakdown as to what I do. And then I heard you give your intro. And it blew me away, bro. I was like, mine wasn't good enough. I need to redo it.
It's different. We're in different fields.
It's different fields.
Yeah.
But it was so empowering that A, it just rolled off your tongue, but also everything you do. So I just want you, for my audience, to just explain a bit about that side of you and what you do.
Yeah. So, post damage in the early 2000s, I went off and spent nearly 10 years in a youth offending team, which is now known as the Youth Justice Services, working with extremely complex, high risk, and highly vulnerable boys and girls. These are the children that commit various offences, many who go on to spend significant amounts of time in custody. I went on to become a criminologist, a sociologist, and then left the statutory services of local authority, set up my own organisation, the Liminality Group, and we began specialising in working within the secure estate, so with children who are remanded or convicted of some of the most serious offences in the UK. We were commissioned by NHS England, Ministry of Justice, and the prisons directly themselves to work with over 2,500 boys predominantly, and some girls. We provided what we call 4 pathways of care, an integrated framework of care, culturally informed, psychologically informed, underpinned by cognitive behavioural therapy techniques, really shifting children from their starting position, really helping them to think about what the future looks like, but also helping them take accountability for the offences that they've committed. That was phenomenal. So we developed what we call a transition service for children who receive life sentences. So moving with them from point of sentence under the age of 18 right through to some who are going to be in their 40s when they come home. We were delivering CPD training for staff, helping them understand how to work with children in a more culturally informed way. We were doing access to education and employment for those who are doing shorter sentences. Part of their rehabilitation, you've got to get them into employment or education when they come home. And then finally, the gateway to our service for all children in custody was our psychologically informed offending behaviour programme, which really helps them think about the development of what we call their pro-offending identity, the identity that has helped them to commit the offences that they've committed, and then help them to think about what their pro-social attitudes and their offending and their identity can be like in the future post-custody. So that got me to the point, Aaron, where I started to say, well, we're working with the kids and young adults up to 25. We need to do some work with the professionals, because if you change the thinking and behaviour of the children, but the professionals in the system are not shifting their thinking and behaviour, it becomes counterproductive.
Yeah.
So I went off and did my master's degree at the Tavistock and Portman in organisational consultancy and leadership using systemic and psychodynamic approaches. What that did, Aaron, is it helped me to understand the systems within organisations, how to support leaders one-to-one, how to work with teams, 200, 300, 400 people, and really bring systemic change in their thinking and their behaviour towards predominantly minoritized black, dual heritage, GRT children and families, because those are the ones who are overrepresented in the criminal justice system, unfortunately. And I've been doing that now across mental health, criminal justice education. We work with some of the biggest NHS trusts in the UK. HMPPS, the Youth Justice Board of England and Wales, schools. So we come at it both ends. We call it whole system work. You work with the children and the young adults, and then you work with the professionals and the leaders, and you create whole system change. So that's what I do.
Now, to me, that's mind-blowing.
It sounds a lot,
Yeah.
but for people that know this type of work, it's really integrated.
Yeah.
And it all makes sense in working in that way. You can't do one part. You have to integrate all parts to bring the change.
What I love about it is there's passion in you.
Yeah,
Like, this isn't just something that you've...
No.
That
This
you
is...
just go, I go to work today, I've got to go to work. This is something you're passionate about.
Yes, indeed.
Which is 2 passions, music and this.
Yeah.
But so different.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the time, I've seen people in youth work that have been to prison themselves, come out, and it's like, okay, I want to now help people not make the mistakes I've made.
Yeah.
What was your driving force?
So first of all, that lived experience that you talk about, or what we refer to as experts by experience, there is a place for that in every system, right? Because one thing I've never done, Aaron, is I've never sat behind a prison door for a year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years. And although I've led and designed services that are delivered in prison, I always get to go home at night and come back in the morning, right? So experts by experience and people with lived experiences, they're very relevant in these spaces. My driver, though, was getting into performing arts and music at a very young age. I'm originally from Northwest London, where I was raised in Stonebridge, and then moved with my mum to Brockley, Lewisham, South East London. And I'm a child of the 80s or late 70s, 80s, early 90s. And I honestly believe in our generation, we had a real shift in the way that children began getting involved in what we just call the roads, okay?
Yeah.
And to be more explicit, it's children who are living in what we call socially disorganized communities, where they were exposed to significant risks. Some hadn't done so well in education. We didn't know about the systemic, institutional, and structural things in place that were holding some people back.
Yeah.
And they found their path in alternative lifestyles. I'm being diplomatic
Yeah,
here,
yeah, yeah. We know
right?
what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
And in doing that, I realized through music, performing arts, and the opportunities that we worked extremely hard for as Damage, I was saved. I was fortunate not to have got involved, right? But I was always around
Yeah.
things. And still to this day, we have people around that are doing what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So when I came back from touring the world in my early 20s, and I'd gotten married, so I've been married 21 years. My shout out my wife, beautiful Wendy Harriott.
Yeah. Shout out Wendy. Love to 21 years as well.
Yeah.
Like.
So when I first got married and Damage kind of had stopped the first time, I remember my wife saying to me, like, what's next? I was DJing at the time, so I was blessed to still be having an income. But it was a calling, and I use this word deliberately. It was a calling upon my life to work with children from not just disadvantaged backgrounds, but the children other people don't want to work with. And I realized again, I was fortunate enough to navigate my way around this life without doing certain things. I wanted to let them know there was more. And I wanted to let them know that, you know, I had these worldly experiences and you can finesse systems in a certain way. So I went in with what we call the hero mentality.
Okay.
Let the youths then meet me. Let them hear my fantastic stories of traveling the world, and I'll stop them offending. And I was completely wrong. Because this problem is not just about the children's behavior, it's about the systems that surround them, whether that's the family system, whether that's the statutory services, whether that's the private sector. All of these things are intertwined and contribute to some of the behavior that we see. So I had to do my just under a decade in the youth offending team, which is now known as Youth Justice Services, and get my mind right about how we bring behavioural change and systemic change. And those were the drivers.
You mentioned about lived experience.
Yeah.
That people with lived experience going into those spaces. Do you feel that those people are more respected by those children?
So it's a great question, right? So for years, I have worked with the most complex, high risk and highly vulnerable boys and girls from the age of maybe 13 to 25.
Okay.
What they say to me is, I don't need somebody else telling me about what they used to do on the roads as a way of trying to transform my own behavior.
Wow.
This is what they've said to me.
Yeah.
Because that story's a little bit played out for me now. What I need are people that are going to give me alternative ideas, alternative options that are going to transform the way I think and the way that I behave. However, I'll still say the lived experience and the experts by experience, they are phenomenal and they're needed.
Yeah.
But we've got youths that we work with, or children that we work with, who have been involved in things far more complex than some of the 18, 19, 25, 30-year-olds who may be trying to give them advice. And sometimes they're saying, well, if you're really about that life, how comes you haven't made the money that I made? I'm 15 and you're 35 and you never touch what I touch. And then they'll come to people like you or people like myself and they'll say, actually, you seem to have found a way, a legal way to do this life. I've already done that side of life. Give me some blueprints and tools how I can transform some of my skills, my knowledge, or transfer, should I say, into another way, another life. So I'm still saying experts by experience and people with lived experience, they are so valid. But what the children and young adults have said to me, especially the most complex ones and the ones who really are actively involved in high level offending, they'll say, we've had those kind of women and men come to our schools when we were kids. We had all of that. I need somebody who's going to give me an alternative way of thinking.
And that for them to even be able to express that,
yes,
is amazing. Because I don't think I would be able to express that.
Yes. And I'm talking about the ones who are the top tier of offending. All right.
Yeah.
These are the individuals who they're 18, as I said, they will not be coming home until they're in their 40s because of what they've done, or people who are just extremely complex and have a very distorted childhood experience, significant adverse childhood experiences that have contributed to where they are now. Those are the ones I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about kids in school at the lower tier entry to offending. I'm talking about the children who are actually involved. Say, bro, we need something different. We don't need people to keep telling us these road stories.
Do you find that I've had a few parents recently writing about um, their sons being left fatherless because the man has gone to prison,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Do you find that a father going to prison is more likely to lead to the son going to prison? Are there any trends or patterns
Yeah.
in that?
The son or the daughter.
Or the daughter,
Because I
yeah.
know we focus a lot on
On
boys and men
boys,
in
yeah.
jail.
Especially when you think of a man, you think of the son. Yeah.
Absolutely. And look, the majority of people in custody are men, right? They offend at a different rate to women, but we must remember there are men and women, girls and boys in custody. So to answer your question, I wouldn't draw a correlation between an adult being in prison and then looking at their child and saying they are more likely to end up in custody because their mum or dad have been in custody. I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
I would say, however, I know there was a study conducted probably 2023 that found that 78% of people in custody, adults, were parents. 78% of people in custody were parents.
And that's men and women.
Men and women.
Okay.
So what that then tells us is, for the children who have parents in custody, parents being in custody is a traumatic experience as a whole.
Yeah.
So from my experience in the work that we do, the thousands of children we've worked with, it starts with the point of arrest. It starts with how your parent potentially could have been arrested in the family home. If it's a really serious offence, firearms police could have arrived. And those early experiences for a child can be very difficult to manage. Then the parent has to be processed through the criminal justice system. They'll finally end up, in custody, serving their sentence. And the prison system as a whole, although there are some phenomenal prison officers, phenomenal organisations that make it child friendly, do family days, they have prison officers dress up in civil, as kind of like as civilians, so the children are not too alarmed. It is an abnormal environment for children to see their parents in.
Yeah.
So if you see your parent at 12 and then visiting closes at 4, you may not want to stop seeing your mum or your dad at 4. And you have to leave them in a place where there's bars, leave them in a place where you know that this doesn't feel right, this isn't our home. I say all that to say those things contribute to what we call adverse childhood experiences, which in turn can come out in the behaviour of some children.
And that's ACEs, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we are not drawing a parallel between a parent in custody and saying their child is more likely to go on to offend. What we are saying is it can come out in some behaviours. It can be linked to maybe depression. It can be linked to children maybe feeling anxious that they're separated from that parent in custody, or watching their mother or father who's back in the community having to manage the loss of their parent being in custody. Again, this is all shaped by hopefully a healthy relationship between a mum and a dad, or a dad and a mum.
Yeah.
Because some relationships,
I'm not that way.
it's probably better that you're not near the parent that's in custody. Right? So in response to your question, I'm not drawing a parallel, but I am saying for those children where their parent is in custody, there's absolutely going to be some experiences that they have, some feelings that they have, things that are projected into them by other children. Bro, your dad's in jail, your mum's in jail. Or professionals in roles of authority who can both consciously and unconsciously project into that child, oh, well, his dad's in jail. Oh, his mum's in jail. And all of those things can contribute to the child taking on an identity of, I'm the child of a parent in custody.
Ooh.
So
Yeah.
that would be my thinking around that. And that's, again, comes from experience. I have worked with children whose parents are in custody, and then those children have gone on to, but, we cannot draw a specific correlation between the two. That would be unfair.
What you said there, though, I'm the child of a parent in custody.
I'm the child of a parent in
never
custody.
looked at that.
Yeah, I'm a child of a parent in
I
custody.
just thought, okay, my dad's in prison. I never looked at it as I have an identity because my dad's in prison.
Oh, absolutely. And if your dad or your mum has committed an offence which has been, quite notorious and is all over the media, that's contributing to where you live. You may have to move because you and your family are at risk. Or, your wider family network may disconnect from you, your mum or your dad, because of what your other parent has done. That's where it becomes complex for the child. And they have to hold on to who they are so their identity doesn't start migrating into people in your local area saying, I'm sure that's my man's son.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
I'm sure that's my man's daughter, or I'm sure that's her. Those things can contribute to a child potentially taking on an identity that was never really theirs.
And I guess, for me, the word that I'm very heavily focused on is consistency for a child.
Yes.
I feel like consistency is important.
Yes.
So if a father or mother is in and out of prison,
Yes.
that could probably be more it could be more detrimental than them just being in prison in the first place, right? That constant back and forth.
I don't see. Again, I'm going to think about this comes down to the individual, right? So let's take a parent that's in and out of custody,
Yeah.
but they're a strong parent for their child. And that sounds quite controversial, but even from the community or custody, they're giving their son or daughter really strong messages. This is not the life. This is not what I want you to be doing. Respect the parent that's still there. Stay within the family. Stay within school. People are checking in. People are dropping money because your mum or dad who's in custody has said they've done well on their GCSEs. Nice them up. Like, there's a different
You're
message.
still handling your responsibilities.
Where you can, where you can, right? But obviously, being in and out of custody is going to have disruption to the child's growth, right, and to the child's life. Developmentally, that child is going to experience a loss when you're in custody, and then when you're in the community and in the family home, they have to experience you kind of reintegrating. So it's not the best, right? And then the other side of a parent who's in custody just for like 20 plus years, again, that can be difficult, because if you're not next to that parent and you have to go and visit that parent in custody only, that can be quite disruptive. But also, if that parent's doing 20 years, but they're sending really positive messages from custody, that can be positive for you. So I'm not going to say being in and out will contribute to that child becoming more involved in criminality, or staying in the whole time will contribute to that child becoming more involved in criminality. It's really about the relationship and the responsibilities that the parent in custody takes on. In whichever position they are, you can still parent. You can still parent your child.
So I was always thinking about the father being in prison.
Yeah.
Is there a difference of impact if the mother ends up in prison? Do you notice that has a...
So I wouldn't be able to pull on that information and speak to it authentically. But in what we're doing today between you and I is we're talking about the experience of boys.
Yeah.
And I've worked with more boys and young men who have had potentially a father in custody, or a father who's had some experience with the criminal justice system. And for some of them, as I say, on both sides, it's been disruptive, it's been difficult. But then on the other side, some of them have had really strong deterrent messages from that father or that mother that has said, don't come this way. Don't ever allow this to be part of your future. So those would be my experiences.
Okay, if you haven't already, please go and listen to the first episode that we done.
Yes.
Because there's some really important gems in there that I want to dive into a bit deeper
Yeah, no
here. One of the things that stuck with me from the last episode is you said you encouraged parents to hold on to their sons, I think, or kids, for dear life in years 7 and 9. I want you to dive into why you feel those years are, I guess, fundamental to a child's development.
So again, some of this comes from, the thousands of children that we've worked with in school settings. So we have something called the Mindset Program. And it works with children who are most at risk of becoming excluded from school. So these are children who have had kind of multiple fixed term exclusions and are one step away from a permanent exclusion. And the reason we target those children is because we know evidence tells us that if those children are permanently excluded and sent to a pupil referral unit or an alternative provision, some of those children will end up in custody, right? Not all, but some of those children, right? So we began working in schools years ago, and I would go to head teachers and say, give me your 10 or 15 children that you're most concerned about in terms of permanent exclusion. Year 6, first of all, became a transitionary year that we became really focused on, because in year 6, you are the oldest in primary. You have a 6-week holiday. And when you return in year 7, you are the youngest, right? So it's a real rupture of being the person, the girl, the guy at the top end of primary, and then having your 6-week school holidays, and then you go to be the youngest.
In a completely different environment.
Completely different environment where you're around year 10s, year 11s, who are developmentally different, physically, psychologically, but also they are talking about things that you're just not accustomed to. So year 6, we began focusing on. Then year 7, we started saying, okay, let's help these children settle. Year 8, it's an important year, but we were not seeing too many disruptive behaviors at that time. And in year 9 is when they were really making decisions about being involved in more so antisocial behavior, getting involved in criminal exploitation. And when I say getting involved, being more susceptible to criminal exploitation, or making real decisions that were taking them down a path that was away from their academic future. So we started targeting year 6, year 7, just to make sure they were settling, but year 9. Then, when we went into custody and we worked with over 2,500 children, I would say to them, what year did it all start to get a bit messy for you in school? no surprise. Most of them would say, yeah, year 9, bro. Year 9, something mad happened. Do you know what I mean? Like year 7 and 8, I was playing around. I had it difficult. But year 9, that's when I had to make some decisions about the life I was going to do. Was it going to be the roads, or was it going to be legal education, GCSEs, A levels, uni, etc., etc.? So that's where we put some of our energy.
And year 9's, unless it's been a while since I was in school, but those are the years where you have to choose your subjects. Is that
You
right?
start right. So key stage 3 and 4 we're talking about. This is where the GCSE conversations are coming in.
Yeah.
This is where you're being funneled into some of those choices. You're having earlier tests to think about, what subjects you may be more suitable to. That's all going on in school. But then on the roads or in your local community, and let's say in your local community, let's forget the term on the roads. In your local community, there is also almost like a GCSE, A-level, university graduate scheme that can fast track you through criminality. And I hope you understand that analogy.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that.
So I always say to people, you can do a PhD in criminality, right? And that starts with you at school. You get your GCSEs at the first stage of criminality, do certain things, build up the reputations, etc., etc. Then you move on to your A levels, where you start becoming more ingrained. You really start thinking about how to do this stuff. You move on to potentially your undergrad in this. You can then do your master's and then do your PhD. Some people will not survive the PhD. Some people will get extremely long prison sentences. Some people will not be alive. And 1 or 2 will find their way through. But the same way that we encourage children to do the academic route in school, there's an academic route on the roads.
You're being encouraged to walk through the school doors, but there's also the community doors that you're walking through every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think some of the children that, again, a lot of what we wanted to do today was to talk about boys, because we do see a higher prevalence of boys coming into the criminal justice system or having challenges in school settings or in community settings. And I always go back to that idea of, we know we need a village, right? We know we need a village, but that village sometimes is not your own family, not your own blood family.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's extended friends, it's other people around, it's people that you meet through school, other parents.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just local people in the community, but boys especially need that group of people around them that can help them at all these transitionary points. Boys especially, and not diverting too much, but need a lot of love, a lot of care. They need to be given space to show their vulnerability. They need to be given hugs. People need to be tactile around them. We still need to build resilience in them so they're good when they get into professional space, so they can manage certain risks in their communities, just so they can still transition through manhood. But part of manhood, as you and I will know, and I know this because that's why I connect with you, is being able to show our vulnerability.
Yes.
And for boys of all ethnicities, but specifically black boys, we have to give them spaces to show that vulnerability. Because when they don't, they keep it all inside, and then it goes...
And that in itself, because not every man especially encourages their son to show vulnerability.
Yeah. So sorry, go on.
No, because a lot can be like, don't cry, man up. You're putting on this, you're expecting them to put on this act, I guess, from such a young age.
Yes.
That they then, that becomes them.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So look, there's two ways of looking at this in my mind, and again, through our experiences. There are some parents that I've worked with who live and breathe organised, structural criminality because it's just within their families for decades, right?
Yeah.
And they also live in environments where there's a high prevalence of, I don't know, like stop and search, school exclusions, mental health difficulties, various type of offences. And all of that means that when you're raising a boy child, potentially, you may have to build them to be resilient in that environment. That doesn't mean that you don't allow them to show vulnerability, but they are managing the different types of risks to somebody who lives in a rural area or somebody who comes from a family who, do not have those kind of intergenerational patterns of offending within them.
Yeah.
Then you can have boys who are raised in homes where that intergenerational offending isn't there, and they still need to be built with resilience, but you also have to put a lot of care and time into them to help them understand they can come to you with anything they need to. to help them understand that it's okay to be held, to help them understand that it's okay to shed a tear, to help them understand that it's okay to get things wrong, and then we'll still support you and provide a safety blanket or safety net for you to come back to the home. It's okay for you to try different things. Like if you've done martial arts, that's incredible, and then you weren't feeling it, cool, we'll move to another discipline, or we'll move to another activity, or we're going to take you into central London to go and see something, or we're going to broaden your horizons. Like we have to deliberately do these things with boys and girls before anyone comes for us.
Yeah.
With the boys, you have to deliberately do this. On top of that, you got to talk to them about healthy relationships, healthy sexual relationships. They're learning about it through social media. They're learning about it in school, but we have to talk about healthy sexual relationships and do that stuff early. Andre, why am I saying all this? Because I work with the boys who become the young men who go on to commit sometimes very serious offences, and they say, bruh, nobody ain't put their arm around me or held me for years. So when I come to see you and you hug me in that way, although we're in a prison setting, it makes me feel a good way, bro.
I'm just reflecting on when I was a kid.
Yes.
And year 7 especially, I think I didn't go to school for like 2/3 of year 7.
Yes.
My mum couldn't get me to go.
Right.
And I know a lot of people will listen to that and say, well, if that was my child,
I'll be taking them
I'll be doing this. And my mum had to work.
Yes.
So a lot of the time it was, I ain't got time for this, what you're doing. You need to go to school.
Yes.
And I was speaking to my mum prior to coming to this, like, what do you remember back then? And she goes, you just refused to go.
Yeah.
And I think you was really struggling with a lot at the time. And she said, all of your boyfriends from primary school went to one school.
Yes.
And you were the only one to have to go to another school.
Yeah.
So you were starting all on your own.
Brand new relationships. Yeah, absolutely.
With none of my comfort team around me.
Yeah, which is a big rupture for you.
Yeah. So I guess I just, at some point, I think I went for the first few months and then I was like, I'm not liking it.
Yeah.
And my mum said that someone had to come to the house to talk to me. I can't remember who. I remember having a conversation. I don't remember what organisation that would have been.
Yeah.
But someone had to come to try and encourage me to go back.
Yes.
And I think it wasn't until my mum's, although he turned out to be a toxic partner,
yes,
having a man come and move in with us or just be around made me realise as a boy, I can't mess about.
Okay.
I could mess about when it was just my mum because I could get away with certain things. I also know what my mum will and won't do.
Yes.
Because I've known this woman all my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
This man, I've got no clue.
Yeah.
And he wants me to go to school. I better fix up.
Yeah.
So that was the only positive to him being there.
Yes.
But I'm thinking in those instances where a woman is raising a son on her own, they can often struggle to, do I play the feminine role? Do I play the masculine? How do I play a role that I'm not naturally inclined to play? How can those women, I guess, provide the comfort to those boys that they need when that natural role player of the father isn't there?
So it's a great question, because I think naturally a mother's role, it never comes to an end, but in the teenage years there becomes a point where there's only so much she can do because the boy desperately needs the male influence.
Okay.
And I speak about it from my own lived experiences, but I speak about it from, again, the thousands of boys that I've worked with who get to those teenage years. They get to that 13, 14 age group where they just start yearning for validation from men.
Yeah.
All right. And the wrong man and the wrong males who bring toxicity to that boy can change his path completely. So again, working with boys who have said, my mum started dating somebody, similar to what you've just said, who maybe encouraged me to go to school, but some of the things that person was doing in our home were not positive. And I found that difficult, and I found the home environment difficult. So I'd spend more and more time in my local community to get away from the things that person was bringing to our home, whether it was about the relationship between that person and the mum, so whether there was domestic violence or whether there was just toxicity in the way that they communicated. Some of those boys would spend more time in the community to get away from those things, right? Again, just some ideas. So it's really important in my experience, when boys get to those teenage years, that the mother acknowledges, right, there's so much I have done, which is incredible,
Yeah.
but I need some men around me to take this to the next stage. And it goes back to the village idea, right? Now, some of those can be the uncles or cousins or other males within the family. Sometimes your own family can't provide it. So sometimes you have to step out to the mentoring service locally, the school teacher locally that your child really engages with if he's a male. You have to try and build networks and take your child and give them different experiences, because sometimes our own families can't provide those positive role models. So sometimes you have to expand the network so the male child, can have this validation from positive male energy.
That's so powerful, because I've never looked at it like that. Whenever I'm thinking of networking, I'm thinking in terms of maybe the podcast, I'm networking, or social media, you're trying to build your network.
Yeah.
As a potential single mum,
Yeah.
with no male influence in her son's life,
Yeah.
build a network.
Yeah. But not like I'm desperate for men to be in
Yeah,
my
yeah,
child's
yeah,
life.
yeah.
Just I'm building a network of different people who can add value to my child in different ways, in different organizations, who have different professions, different cultures, different lived experiences. I want my son, and again, it's important for daughters, but today we're talking about boys.
Yeah.
It's important for boys to have their masculinity validated at specific times in their teenage years by positive men. Because if we don't get it right, respectfully, there are many men who have got their own experiences they're dealing with, and they pass that toxicity on to the younger children. And then what we get is these children bonding with the trauma of some of these older men, and then we just lose them into the system again.
And in terms of those ages, we're talking early teens.
Yeah, and don't hold me to that. I'm saying from my experience, it is definitely the 13, 14, 15 age group based upon our work. But some people may say, no, it starts, I've seen it at age 9, age 8, etc. But the teen boys, my God, that's when they need that validation from
Well, I'm
positive men.
noticing Tyler's 12 now.
Yes.
And I'm noticing a completely different Tyler.
Yeah.
Like the moods.
Yes.
The behaviours. You're now you're getting a bit more back chat.
Yes, of course.
Or you're getting certain looks that you weren't getting before. You're having to remind him, do you know who I am?
Get in your position. Yeah.
And the one thing I've been saying to Tyler's mum as well is we have to give him grace during this transitional period, because he's not really clued up on what's going on.
Absolutely.
He's feeling these emotions and getting annoyed and frustrated, but he's also having to understand himself.
And within the context of one of my parents is famous on social media. Never forget that. That does shape your boys' experiences.
That's true.
100%. So their friends know who you are.
And know because he's on the page
appeared,
as well.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But that just shapes again how he experiences other children, how they experience him, what they project into him. It must be Ferrari and 15-bedroom mansions going on, and you must be positive like your father, and some of that can be a heavy load. So for him, he has to, it's a great word we always use, but navigate all of those experiences. But because you are such a positive male figure, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. But the grace is important, like you said.
Yeah.
He's got to run his lips once in a while.
Yeah.
As long as it's in the home, right? Let him do it in the home.
Yeah.
Not in the community. But you do have to test us at home. You got to test who I am as your dad. I've got to make sure that when I get things wrong as your dad, I let you know. I apologize, hands up, I got it wrong.
Yeah.
But generally, you see me as an extremely positive figure in your life, and that will help to, when some of those toxic relationships may enter his space, he knows the kind of man that he sees at home, and that will guide him.
I think when you think about co-parenting as well, one of the things I'm grateful for is his mum will update me and run certain things by me, and I feel like the route almost, or the pathway we want him to go on, we're both in agreement to that.
So that's amazing.
But in some places, you're getting a child that's being given mixed messages in different households.
100%.
And I'm thinking about that child now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you've got mum that's trying to raise you a certain way, and then you've got dad over here who may not be in prison or doing anything like that, but he's got a completely different way of doing things.
Yeah.
Do you ever find with the children that you've worked with struggles from coming from two separate households?
Absolutely, because there's one home where you can get away with things. There's one home where you've got more autonomy, more freedom to stay out maybe a little bit later. There's one home where there's different types of characters coming in. There's one home where you are, basically, kind of bypassing elements of your childhood and you're being raised to be a mini adult really early. And then there's the other home where, and this can go for in co-parenting, this can be the woman or the man.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
And then there's the other home where you get all the care and the love. There's far more boundaries put in, and then you can kick back against that because the children are like, well, when I go to that parent's house, I can do this, but when I come home, you want to put these boundaries in place, and that can cause tension. What you said that you're doing in terms of co-parenting sounds incredible because the child can't pull the wool over your eyes or your ex-partner's eyes. We're both on a clear plan. We know what we're doing for you, Tyler. And also, he's getting the best of both environments. It's also important that nobody's using disparaging language about the other person, right? You know how toxic that can be and how difficult that can be. And that word toxic's in the space today. We keep drawing on it. But how difficult it can be to hear a mum or a dad say that your other parent is a waste of space. Those things are just not helpful. If you're co-parenting, you want to turn up to parents' evening together. You want to go and celebrate the child's events and achievements together. If you can get to the stage where you can go on trips together, I mean, incredible. But all those things help the child to go, right, my parents aren't together. They're not in a relationship, but they are parenting me together. And I think that can be positive.
Parenting me together.
We're parenting me together. And the child's not going to articulate that maybe, but it's something that's planted in. And maybe in their 20s, they may turn around and go, actually, my parents parented me together, although they weren't together.
One of the things I've struggled with Amari now, we're at the other end of that. Yeah. So Amari's just turned 18.
Yes. Nice young king.
And I've said that this stage of parenting to me is the hope stage.
Yes.
I can no longer guarantee. He doesn't have to do what I say. So I now hope he makes the right choices.
Okay.
Because when he was younger, he does what he's told.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And now it's like, I have to sit back and see what he does. And I always felt beforehand, when he gets to 18, it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, this is harder.
Do you know what's interesting is that he's just turned 18.
Yeah, in July, yeah.
So, respectfully.
He's already got a tattoo.
Oh, there we go. And did he ask or did he just go get it?
He said that he was asking before he turned 18 that he was talking about it. But I was aware that he was going to get one.
Yes.
But then I got sent a picture while he was in the middle of getting it done.
Oh, as you do. Yeah. You can't stop it now. Yeah. So, but what I was going to go on to say is in January at the top of this year, Amari was a child by law. All the way to the end of June, early July, he was a child. And then one day happened and he became an adult.
That's what I said, yeah.
And in your mind as a father, we must treat him like a young adult and give him more space and responsibilities, but still hold on to the fact that he has childlike tendencies.
Yes.
And I think sometimes when they hit 18, what we project into them, the world does this, especially here. You're an adult now. You're a man now. You're a woman now. No, but just the day before I was a child legally. So can you just guide me maybe from 18 to 25, where we know developmentally you're still growing in your brain, and just still hold me as a child at certain times. So I'm going to go and make certain mistakes, but don't come to me like I'm 35. Just come to me like, actually, you are 19. Only a year and a bit ago, 2 years ago, you're still legally a child. So I'm still going to give you space to have that immaturity, to be impulsive. I'm still going to give you that space to come and sit down and get a hug. I'm still going to give you that space to do things where I go, why have you made that decision? Because you still are developmentally experiencing those childlike tendencies. It's just the world says that they're adults.
And that's the conversation I had with him. I said, you went to sleep one day, woke up. The world now tells you, you don't have to ask permission for that. Yeah. You can legally go and do this and do that.
Yes.
I said, but literally all that happened was you closed your eyes, reopened them.
Totally.
And I said, you're classed as an adult.
Yes.
But I said, that doesn't mean you're a man.
No. And, we used to hear it back in the day, like, you can make children, but that doesn't mean that you're a father, man. Do you know what I mean? Just because you've been, you've been intimate with a woman, that doesn't mean that you know how to be a father or know how to be a dad, right? You can produce a son or a daughter, but that doesn't mean you know how to be a father or a dad. So I think there is something, especially about boys, when we're talking about boys today, you've got to give them space post-18 to still have those childlike behaviours. Now, I've seen it a lot in my work within the education system, criminal justice system, and in mental health, where some of the services that we all know, and anybody watching this who does this type of work, you'll know that they just pretty much fall off for some of those children who become those adults, right?
Yeah.
And we always encourage organizations through our training to give them those bridge services, those transition services, take them all the way through. It's great that some scientists got together and said, look, actually, neurodevelopmentally, people are still growing, their brains are still growing up to the age of 25. And some of us were saying, well, we knew this stuff.
Yeah.
We had peers who are 25 and they still behave like they're 15.
Yeah.
I've got peers who are people in their 30s and they behave like they're 15.
Yeah.
So we've always known, but we just needed the scientists to confirm.
Yeah.
Now they have, we must all take and acknowledge an advantage of this information to help us understand how we raise those children as they transition into adulthood.
Well, I wanna bring it back to just the school period as well.
Yeah.
Do you, obviously sometimes you can have kids that are engaging in behavior they shouldn't, and they're able to kind of keep it away from the parent, or they're struggling and again able to keep it away from the parent.
Yes.
Have you ever noticed that there's signs that some children display when they may be experiencing something or in a space that they shouldn't be? Do you ever feel like parents might miss signs that you as a professional pick up on?
Yeah, so so I won't say that parents may miss the signs. When children are distressed, it's really clear to see a child is distressed.
Okay.
So when children are misbehaving, or the most extreme end, maybe throwing chairs and turning over tables, not turning up to school, disrespecting teachers, disrespecting parents, involved in antisocial behavior in the local community, like just put that all down to this idea that this child is distressed in some way. And then let's just step back from the behavior for a second and let's think about everything that has contributed to the development of that child, what's going on for them in their wider society, in the wider system that's contributing to the behaviors that we see. Rather than locating it all in the child's behavior, let's just say, you're trying to tell me something. You're trying to tell the teacher something. You're trying to tell us as parents something. You're trying to tell your social worker something. You're trying to communicate with the police. You're trying to communicate with the community. There's something going on that is distressing you, and we need to work out what that is.
And what if a child is resistant to talking?
Yeah.
You've mentioned there obviously a community. Would you advise that parent maybe reach for an elder or someone else to have certain conversations with them? Or can that sometimes, because I'm thinking if my mum got my football coach or whatever to have a conversation with me, I might look at that as, oh, you're snitching, mum.
Right, okay.
Do you see what I mean?
So when you were in year 7, it's a great question, because people always say, I've tried to find people locally to talk to my son and it's not really working, or I've tried to refer and then services don't respond in the way that I need to. So you've just raised your football coach. It's a great point. When you were in year 7, who was if you can remember this period, right? Who was the most trusted adults in your network? Who were the adults that you trusted?
It was probably, that's a great question. So I used to get my hair cut from a friend of mine's older brother.
Okay.
And I'd go around the house and a haircut would take 3 hours because he'd be on the DJ mixing thing, cutting a bit, going back to doing this. Yeah. But it was that he was someone that I looked up to and kind of trusted. Yeah. And probably some of my friends' dads.
Okay, right. So some of those men, especially if those men were living lives that were legitimate and there wasn't any toxicity in their behavior towards their wives or their partners or their children as a whole, we needed some of those men to come together with support and create an intervention for you. And that would have been, right, Monday to Sunday, what's this boy doing? He's not at school at the moment. We're all working. Who can get to him at 2 in the afternoon? Right, Saturday, 9 a.m. Who can get to him? Right, who can be there the second week out of the 4 in the month? Right, who can take this boy on holiday? Right, who can give mum respite on the weekend? She leaves the house. We come in and we cook. Right, who can do like a men's circle? So we get who can do. And what we do sometimes is we leave statutory services and organisations to put these systems in place. And we can do some of that stuff ourselves.
Again, I've never I've never looked at it like that.
Because you had men that were trusted in your network and women, but I asked you who were the trusted people, and you immediately went to, yeah, my friend's older brother was a DJ and I used to love watching him spin. So there was an interest for you in DJing, in equipment, in technology, as well as barbershops are always very therapeutic, right?
Yeah.
So there was something about him that was really positive. Now, if we could have supported your mum at that age to say, how do we bring him in more? We may not be able to pay him, but how do we bring him in more? Can he go there a couple evenings a week and learn to DJ? Can he learn to barber? Are there other men in the network that can get him to school in the morning, drive him in when they're on their way to work, pick him up after? There was something about the school environment that wasn't working for you, all right? And you've identified, because my friends went to that school, but I was at this school. But we needed to look at all of that system around you rather than just say, this youth don't want to go to school. That was lazy. We needed to have looked at all of those trusted individuals that you identify and then think about, what does that school represent to this youth, why he doesn't want to go.
That's so true. And I'm thinking it's also important, I guess, for, again, because we're talking about boys and maybe a father not being there.
Yes.
The mums to not feel shame.
No. My God, these are, we always... we do a lot of work around sexually harmful behaviour within schools. So we have the mindset program for children who are most at risk of becoming excluded from schools. And then we have the respect system, which is to help boys in particular understand how to have healthy relationships within schools, right? And I raise that because I always say to the boys, you aren't as heavy as you think you are. Because you can't produce babies, man. All of us came from women. All of us. I mean, we know this, but when you say it to the boys, all of us came through women. And there's something that the girls in your school experience monthly that if you were experiencing, you wouldn't be able to you wouldn't be able to sit in a classroom. Some of you would be going to A&E. They have a menstrual cycle. And these girls in your school are coping with that as well as everything else. You walk down corridors, 10, 15 strong as boys, and you expect the girls to walk through you so their bodies are brushing up against you. And you never think about stepping aside. You never think about moving away on the stairs so these girls don't have to do that. You're using language. I always say to them, tell me the words that you use to describe girls. It's horrific. All right? So I say that to say that these women that are raising boys on their own, they are incredible, incredible women. Incredible. Not always.
Not always. No one's perfect.
No one's perfect. But when women are raising boys on their own, they're incredible, and they deserve that respect, and they deserve that acknowledgement. But we always help the boys within school through our respect program to say, respect women, not just your mum, your auntie, your nan, etc., but respect the girls, because they carry and do things that you will never be able to do. Make the space safe for them so they can be in school, they can feel safe when they're on the bus going to and from school. Just thinking contextually about where they are. Make sure these girls are safe, man. Make sure they're safe.
I want to, just before we end, I want to touch on a word you started with.
Yes.
When it came to kids, and it was accountability.
Yes.
How difficult is that to teach young people?
Oh, sorry.
How difficult is it to teach young people that?
Accountability.
Yeah.
For their actions, for their behaviour, for their words.
Because I feel like it's so easy to have the blame culture. Oh, but they did it, or I only did it because of this, or if this hadn't happened, then... How are you able to, I guess, get them to look at self and have that reflection and say, actually, it was me. I should have done different.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm going to place that within the criminal justice space and then within the educational space where we are. So within schools, again, through the mindset and respect systems, and we're going to offer these systems as well to people in local communities, because what I find is when you just do it with schools, there's sometimes parents at home going, how could I access that provision, that intervention? So we'll talk and we'll try and make some of our content available to just families in the community that want to access that. But in schools, we try and help those children to be accountable for their behaviour. Yeah, but sir, my teacher's he's a this, he's that, and he's running his mouth. Okay, no problem. How much did they charge you this morning to come to school? Nothing. Okay. There's countries where you have to pay. You know this, right? Cool. Who in this space gives you access to your next level? The teachers. They've already got their degrees, their undergrads, their masters, their PhDs. They've already got income, they've already got their jobs. They are the gateway to the next step. So what you've got to do is find out how we're going to finesse this situation. And part of that is being respectful and keeping this quiet certain times. And if there is somebody that is really kind of violating your space as a child, then the adults in your system, whether it's your parents or others, we need to hold that person accountable. But you have to be accountable for what you're doing. When you're in class with 29 other students and you tell a teacher to shut their mouth, it's going to cause a problem in how that teacher responds to you. You're going to find yourself asked to leave the room, etc. And then you're building a narrative, a school identity that's not helpful, right? Yeah. So you got to take accountability for when you said shut your mouth. You have to. Can you hold that? No, you're right. I have to hold that. And that's girls or boys.
Yeah.
I remember working with a girl recently in a school, and the way she cut her eye at one of the female staff members. And it was culturally, I was the only person in that moment that could have dealt with her in the way that we did. And I said to her, you see the way you cut your eye at that woman? It was so disrespectful. And I don't care what's happened before this, but I've just come in today and I'm just here as a guest speaker. But when you do that, you have to hold accountability for that cut in the eye, because it doesn't help that teacher want to support you moving forwards. In a criminal justice setting, when I work with boys and girls, unfortunately, who have committed some really heinous offences, although they're still developing and it can take time for them to take responsibility fully, they can be accountable for the harm that they've caused towards their own families, towards their parents who have had to take time off of work on the trial, towards their parents who have had to move homes because their child's face has been all over the news. And you can lead them to do that victim empathy work where they start to think, no, you're right. In the moment, it was a hot moment.
Yeah.
But even though I've got 22 years, that person's never going to breathe again, Andre. And I hadn't thought about it in that way. I hadn't thought about every Christmas or every Eid or, all these celebrations where that child's not going to be there. I hadn't thought that child hadn't had children and that child was an only child in their family system. So the line stops there. I can take some accountability for that. You've helped me to think in a different way.
Because again, just reflecting on that, you get a child or a person can just look at the picture.
Yeah.
They can be so zoomed in.
Yeah.
That they don't see actually there's a wider...
there's a wider ripple effect that's always being used, but there's a wider system. If you think about it systemically, there are maybe 100 people that have been affected by one offence. And when I say 100 people, I'm talking about the criminal justice response, the police officers that had to respond, the ambulance workers that had to respond, the youth justice practitioners, the probation officers you're going to work with in the future, the social workers, the psychologists that have interviewed you, all the people that work at your parents' jobs, your family network, your local community. I mean, it's a massive impact. And if you can just get them to stop for a minute, even as a child, holding in mind, though, that their brain is still developing, so there's only so much they can hold. But you can give them some of that and you do get them to take accountability. That's what I would say to your question. The criminal justice response and the education response with the children we work with, you can get some to take accountability for their actions.
I love that. I'm going to end it there because
Amazing.
I feel I could do this for hours.
Yeah, no, we probably could talk for a good...
And we're going to get you back on.
And we should, yeah.
Because there's so much more to dive into.
Yeah.
But just for now, let people know where they can find out more about your organisation or yourself.
Absolutely. So you can go to www.tlguk.co.uk. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Just search Andrez Harriott. You can find me on Instagram, search Andrez Harriott. Our website at the moment is a holding page. We're having that redesigned by the end of the year. But you can definitely reach out to me and to other people in the team who can help with any inquiries. But, when you invited me on today, it was really all about how do we support boys? And I always say we need to support boys and girls.
Yeah.
But there is an overrepresentation of boys that I've worked with in the criminal justice system, or those who are most likely to be excluded permanently from school. And we need to be thinking about how we provide spaces for boys to show vulnerability, to have a network which supports them, to give them the blueprint for success.
That's the word.
We're here in a podcast studio. If there's a boy that expresses he wants to get into podcasting, we need somebody to give him the blueprint so it fast tracks him and it reduces the chance of the exploitative relationships that say, that's long, bro. No, it's not long. Somebody gave me the blueprint. I know how to do it.
So true. My bro, thank you.
A pleasure.
If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. And until next week, we are out. My bro, thank you. Love that.
All good?
I could talk to you for hours.
And we should.